We're here again on another week with full of energy from what we're gathering from Nick Bendel. Nick Bendel has come up with 500 lunches, and I'm just trying to recall my lunch with Nick Bendel. It was such a long time ago. We met in Hornsby, and we talked about my business back then, but that's a totally different era. It feels such like a long time ago, and before COVID and everything else happened. Nick, how is 500 lunches going, and what made you come up with 500 lunches?
Well, it's going well, Sandro. You were number 20, and a bloke named Andrew Third was number 6. And I met both of you before the pandemic, so in a completely different world. And the lunches are going well. I actually had lunch 219 earlier today. And in terms of where I got the idea from, well, like all my best ideas, I stole it off someone else. I stole this idea off a wonderful woman named Kaylee Chu, who had 100 lunches in 2018. And she wrote a fantastic book about it called 100 Lunches with Strangers. I read the book and I was inspired to follow in her footsteps.
Oh, I love that. You did put me in touch, so I've got to get in touch with Kaylee. And so, out of all the lunches, what have you learned in general from a lot of people?
I've learned quite a few things. So let me maybe just focus on a couple of lessons. One is that we all need to ask for more things in life. It never hurts to ask. That's a big lesson I've learned. I've met a lot of really successful people and they just ask for stuff, and I've started asking for more things, including asking complete strangers if they want to have lunch with me. And I've learned that when you ask for more things, you get more things. And another lesson I've learned, Sandro, is one of the keys to being a great conversationalist is actually not to talk, or at least to talk a lot less and let the other person talk, and it makes them feel comfortable and you get to learn a lot about the other person. And that gives you the opportunity to ask really good follow-up questions.
Oh, I really like that, because asking a question, and whether you might think it might be stupid, but the other person might not be thinking that. And a lot of people are so scared of asking a question that they don't get to ask it. So I love that. That's one of the lessons, because I think we forget to do that in a society where we're told to really be quiet, right? So, so what do you think of that? Like, are people talkative in these lunches?
Yeah, but people are talkative. And following on from what you said earlier, Sandro, which I think is so true, people, so often in our head, we tell ourselves, oh, I better not say anything, I better not ask a question. But when you do ask the question, people respond well to it, and they feel happy and flattered that you're taking an interest in them, and they're only too happy to open up. So I definitely think it's a good idea for people to ask questions, even if they hear this little voice inside them that says, oh no, don't ask the question. I still think we should.
And I guess it's not like 500 lunches. This is not just sort of Sydney based. It's probably taken you different places, different venues, different spaces. What kind of environments, I guess, have you sort of seen and been in for having these lunches?
Well, a lot of them, Andrew, are in kind of casual locations. It might be a cafe, a pub. There was one lunch where I went to a very fine establishment. I had to wear a suit and a tie, but mostly they're just kind of regular places. And it's not so much the venue or even the food that's significant. It's more the wonderful people I get to meet and the things you get to learn, and the stories you get to hear.
So with the people that you learn about, what have you learned in like what kind of, I guess, variety of background, what, you know, different, I guess, jobs, backgrounds, the working, like businesses. Can you give us a bit of an idea of who you've met, what you've met along the way?
I'm deliberately trying to have lunch with people from a really broad cross-section of society, all ages, backgrounds. For example, the person I had lunch with today, Cheryl, she is, I think, 75, and she's a retired nurse. And I think the oldest person I've had lunch with was 92, and the youngest 18. And I've met, let me think, I've met a principal, I've met lawyers, I've met a policeman, I've met a hostage negotiator, I've met a magician, I've met an actor. I've met people from all walks of life, and by meeting, the reason I wanted to meet all these people from all these different backgrounds was I figure if I'm meeting people I wouldn't normally meet, I'm going to be able to have conversations I wouldn't normally have and learn things I wouldn't normally learn.
So I guess there would have been so much different experience and stories, people's stories and their journey. I guess you can have your own book about it. Everyone's journey.
Andrew, you were just so true. Well, you just hit the nail on the head. I've discovered that you meet someone and just on the surface they appear to be just an ordinary person doing ordinary things, but once you start chatting, some of these people have the most incredible stories, and they've been through, some of them just the most harrowing experiences or the most challenging or extraordinary experiences, and you learn about the obstacles they've had to overcome, things that I couldn't have even imagined ever being confronted with. And you discover that once you get to know people, and like Sandro was saying earlier, once you ask questions, you really see a side of people that you wouldn't have imagined, and that allows you to learn these things that you wouldn't have otherwise learned.
And I understand that you're an introvert because you started you started this because you're an introvert. Tell us more about you being an introvert and how this got you out, and how do you feel about being an introvert now, or what's that all about?
I'm definitely an introvert, Sandro. I call myself an antisocial introvert. My idea of a good time is staying at home on my own, sitting on the couch, reading a book. And part of the reason I wanted to have all these lunches was to improve my social skills and become better around people and become a better communicator. And I have been able to do so, which is great. I'm still definitely an introvert. And by that, I mean, while I like people, I definitely get my energy back by being alone. That hasn't changed. I'm better with people, but I still need to be away from people to get my energy back.
Did you have something?
It's funny, just some of the conversations Sandra and I have been having of late, and particularly around energy, people and energy. And it's funny because you have these conversations and you're like, I've got all these questions in my head, but then it's like, wow, this is actually resonating. Just having this conversation right now, it's resonating. And what are we going to ask next? But I did want to say that, so Nick was on New Zealand telly the other day.
Yes.
You're on New Zealand telly. So Sandro, if you can pull it up, we're just going to bring it in here. This is the first time we're doing this. I hope it's going to work.
It's not coming through.
What's going on
here? It's not coming through. It needs to be louder. But is that loud enough?
The question was, have you had any disastrous lunches? Have you had any disastrous lunches? And you were you spoke around it, but I mean, we're in a bit of a safe zone here. Come on, can you give us at least one disastrous lunch that you've had?
Apart from my lunch with a bloke named Sandro Hogan, they've all been good.
Right answer.
Oh my goodness!
Right
what's going on?
I can honestly say none of them were disastrous. So there've been a handful where maybe the chemistry hasn't been there with the other person, and it's been like we've had to work really hard just to have a conversation, and that's no one's fault. That's just my personality and their personality, and you never know how they're going to come together. But I promise you, there haven't been any bad lunches at all.
Oh, we've got Joe with a question here. And she said, what a wonderful way to learn to better appreciate others. Looking forward to your book when you write it. Oh, so we're expecting a book now, Nick. And the next part, Joe wanted to ask, how do you decide who to have lunch with? That's a very interesting question. Thanks for that question, Joe.
Okay, well, it happens in a few ways. As I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to have lunch with a really broad cross-section of society. So I will often go out and seek someone from a background that I haven't met before. For example, I really want to have lunch with a diplomat, and I approached lots of diplomats, and eventually I got to have lunch with a diplomat, which was wonderful. That was fascinating. And another way I meet some people. So that's most of my lunches, me actively going out trying to find someone. But occasionally I get or someone says, hey, you should have lunch with this person. For example, I remember I met a person, I think his name was Andrew Third, and he said, you should have lunch with this bloke I know named Sandro Hogan. And I thought, oh, what's wrong there? So that's how I had lunch with that Sandro Hogan bloke.
Lots went wrong. Apparently lots went wrong, right? all this refer. It's a referral system. Okay.
There you go.
I like that. It's like when we talked about this earlier. It opens all these different opportunities at the same time, right? It opens once you have lunch with one person, it exposes you to other people you potentially could meet. So it's just really based on creating a relationship, and what you're doing well. Having these lunches is digging deeper into having a relationship and getting to know someone. It's like having a first date. Maybe I should start a 52 once a week and go out on dates. Ladies, if you are single, no, just kidding. No, don't even try.
500 dates. There you go.
So tell us something. Tell us something interesting that you've learned about relationships. How you create these relationships?
Well, everyone wants to feel valued. We all want to feel valued. We all want to feel understood. We all want to feel significant. And so I've learned that if you can just take the time to get to know the other person and take a genuine interest in them, that's a great way to build relationships, because it makes the other person feel respected and it gets them to open up. And once that happens, you're well on your way to building a good relationship. And then once you've built the relationship, it's important then to nurture it by keeping in contact with people. So I know the three of us, we contact each other from time to time, which is great. And that's how we've maintained a relationship in the 2+ years that we've known each other.
Oh, that's true. Yep.
Oh, I want to ask you a question, and I mean, you've already done 200 and what was it? 250?
219.
Halfway there. How do you keep trim and still be a fine young specimen with all these lunches? How do you do it?
Well, I exercise every morning, and I know all the ladies are going after Sandro with his 100 dates. So I know that if I want to attract someone, I need to up my game, and so I've got a real incentive to stay trim.
Well, there we go. Well, maybe there's is this like sounds like there's going to be a bit of a speed networking thing here. Just you guys can just go on it together. 500 dates together.
Oh, that would be nice.
Is this like a revolving door? Is this what you're thinking, that there's a revolving door and they'll sit down and we got like a few minutes to talk to them? Is that the whole idea? Is that what you're thinking?
Maybe we're digressing a little bit here, but anyway, let's bring it back to 500 lunches, meeting some fantastic people, especially number 6. Got to write that down somewhere. I won't forget that now.
Number 6. Jeez.
But Nick, how can people get in? If people want to go on a lunch with you, how can they get in touch?
Probably LinkedIn is the best way to contact me. Oh, and well done. There it is. There's my LinkedIn profile.
So
And
get in touch with Nick.
What Joe thinks, Nick, go for lunch. Thanks, Joe, for engaging, commenting. There you go. Nick, I think you should go for a lunch with Joe, and Joe, I think you should go for a lunch with Nick.
And thank you for offering to pay for it, Andrew. Much appreciated.
Sorry, just following my name change right now. Continue, Sandro, go.
Yeah, well, it's all on Andrew at the moment. So, yeah, we'd like to sort of cap this off. If you guys want to get in touch with Nick, of course, get in touch with Nick just here from LinkedIn. Get in contact with Nick. It will be something very different because you'll be part of his blog on 500lunches.net. So if you want to see all the different lunches and get an idea of all the people he's met, go to his blog. He writes a lot about this. And that if you guys want to engage or do anything and just jump into this video as well and follow us for more, and see you again next week.
Thanks,
so
Nick, for coming on.
And thank you very much. All right, see you guys.